There is a moment in Formula One when the race stops behaving like a sport and starts behaving like nature. It doesn't announce itself with drama or certainty. It doesn't arrive all at once. It creeps in slowly, almost politely, as if testing whether it's truly welcome. The first sign is rarely visible on track. It begins somewhere far from the cameras, somewhere beyond the grandstands, picked up only by weather radars and gut instinct. And then it reaches the driver through the calmest, most dangerous channel of all, the radio. We've got rain in some sectors. The words are delivered evenly, almost casually, but everyone listening understands what they really mean. This is the moment where preparation starts to lose its grip on reality. Data becomes less reliable. Strategies that looked perfect 10 minutes ago suddenly feel fragile. Engineers glance at screens, searching for certainty that no longer exists. Drivers feel the first invisible changes through the steering wheel. A hint of dampness, a slightly longer braking distance, a subtle shift in grip that tells them something is about to change. Rain doesn't turn a Grand Prix upside down instantly. It destabilizes it. It creates doubt. And in Formula One, doubt is far more dangerous than chaos itself. Rain in Formula One is never just weather. It is a destabilizing force that attacks the very foundations of control. A variable that no simulation, no data model, and no pre-race plan can fully predict. Engineers can run 1,000 scenarios, drivers can rehearse 100 laps in the simulator, but none of it truly prepares you for a track that refuses to behave the same way twice. When rain arrives, confidence becomes fragile. Precision turns into educated guesswork. The limits that drivers have memorized suddenly move without warning. Braking points stretch and shrink. Grip appears in places it didn't exist moments before, then vanishes just as quickly. What felt safe one lap ago becomes a trap the next. The circuit itself fractures into multiple realities. One corner remains bone dry, inviting full commitment. The next is soaked, waiting to punish that same commitment without mercy. A single lap can contain every condition a driver fears. Dry racing lines, damp patches offline, rivers of water cutting across braking zones. The track stops being a single challenge and becomes a constantly shifting puzzle, one that resets itself every few seconds. In those moments, Formula One stops rewarding perfection and starts rewarding adaptability. The fastest car on paper no longer guarantees safety. The bravest move can become the biggest mistake. And the drivers who thrive are not necessarily the ones pushing hardest, but the ones who can read the surface beneath them in real time, adjusting their instincts, their aggression, and their trust in the car, corner by corner. Rain doesn't just slow Formula One down, it exposes it. It strips away certainty and forces everyone involved, drivers, engineers, strategists, to confront the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the race is no longer something you control, it's something you survive. In dry conditions, Formula One is a science experiment executed at extreme speed. Every lap is calculated, every braking point rehearsed, every variable controlled. But in the rain, control becomes an illusion. Grip disappears without warning. Visibility collapses, and races are no longer won by perfection, but by adaptation. Throughout Formula One history, rain has repeatedly turned races into pure chaos. Not because drivers forget how to drive, but because the margin between control and catastrophe becomes impossibly thin. One decision made seconds too late can erase an entire weekend. One gamble can destroy a championship or define a legacy. The chaos rarely begins with heavy rain. It begins with hesitation, a few drops on the visor. Engineers say it's only light rain. Drivers are told to stay out, to manage tire temperatures, to wait. This is the most dangerous phase of a wet race, the crossover between dry and wet. Slick tires begin to slide, but intermediates would overheat. Every option feels wrong, and every lap feels like borrowed time. This is where Formula One's greatest vulnerability is exposed. Strategy depends on information, and rain destroys information. Weather radar shows possibilities, not certainty. Teams see the same data but experience different grip. One driver reports standing water. Another says the track is fine. Strategy fractures. Decisions diverge. Pit walls become battlegrounds of indecision. Box now, stay out, abort. One lap too early, and the tires are useless. One lap too late, and the race is gone. The pit lane fills with regret as often as reward. And because Formula One operates at such speed, there is no time to reflect, only to react. Historically, rain has rewritten races that seemed predictable minutes earlier. Monaco, already unforgiving in the dry, becomes merciless in the wet. The walls do not move back. There is no runoff to save mistakes. Drivers speak of wet Monaco races as exercises in survival, not racing. Vision is blurred. Steering inputs are exaggerated. One wrong correction ends everything. At Spa-Francorchamps, rain carries a different menace. Elevation changes mean weather behaves unpredictably. Eau Rouge may be drenched while the Kemmel Straight remains dry. Drivers crest hills blind, committing to corners without knowing if grip exists. Over decades, Spa's wet races have become symbols of Formula One's most dangerous contradiction: the pursuit of speed in conditions that demand restraint. Interlagos tells a similar story. The Brazilian circuit's flowing layout and changing camber punish hesitation. Rain amplifies every mistake. Championships have been decided there not by dominance, but by who could read chaos faster than everyone else. Rain also exposes something deeper: the psychology of drivers. In dry races, the field often converges. In wet races, it fractures. Drivers who thrive in uncertainty rise. Others, equally talented, struggle. Rain reveals how drivers relate to risk. Those who fight it often lose. Those who accept it sometimes find clarity. Radio messages during wet races capture this mental strain. Engineers provide updates that are instantly outdated. Drivers argue for tires. Teams second-guess themselves. Trust becomes fragile. And yet someone must decide. In those moments, Formula One stops being about engineering and becomes about judgment. Rain also changes how drivers race each other. Defensive moves grow sharper. Overtakes become risk calculations. Visibility drops, and trust between competitors erodes. Everyone is guessing. Everyone is reacting. And when multiple tire compounds share the same track, chaos multiplies. Lap times tell only part of the story. Yes, wet laps can be 15 or 20 seconds slower, but the true cost is mental. Drivers describe wet races as exhausting in a way no dry race ever is. There is no rhythm, no breathing space. Every corner demands full concentration. Fatigue becomes dangerous. One moment of mental overload can end everything. This is why wet weather victories carry a different weight. They are remembered long after dominant dry performances fade. Winning in chaos is not about executing a perfect plan. It's about surviving the collapse of all plans. As rain intensifies, races approach a breaking point. Full wet tires replace intermediates. Cars struggle to generate heat. Spray reduces visibility to nothing. Race control debates safety cars and red flags. And still, drivers push on, navigating a sport forever caught between spectacle and safety. When the storm begins to fade, a new danger appears: the drying track. This transition phase has decided countless races. Drivers must judge when to abandon wet tires for slicks. Too early, and they slide helplessly. Too late, and they surrender time they will never recover. This is often where races are truly won or destroyed. Some of the most dramatic lead changes in Formula One history occurred not in the rain itself, but in the moments after. The crossover lap, the gamble, the realization that the track has changed again. By the time the checkered flag falls after a rain-soaked Grand Prix, the result often feels secondary to the story. Fans remember cars sliding at impossible angles, drivers wrestling control back from disaster, radios filled with disbelief, engineers exhausted, strategies in ruins. Rain strips Formula One of its illusions. It exposes the sport at its most honest. It reminds everyone that mastery is fragile, that speed is conditional, and that even the most advanced machines on Earth are helpless without human judgment. Because when rain turns races into pure chaos, Formula One stops being about who has the fastest car. It becomes about who understands chaos better than anyone else, who can think clearly when grip disappears, who can trust instinct when data fails, and who can survive when the track itself seems determined to intervene. That is why the greatest wet races are never forgotten. They are not just competitions, they are confrontations, with weather, with fear, and with the limits of control. And every time rain falls on a Formula One circuit, history reminds us of a simple truth. Chaos is always one cloud away.